All right, guys, welcome back to Middle American Outdoors Fireside Chats. This is episode 21, unbelievably. And we're really, I feel like, getting into a groove here. Monday nights, 8 o'clock Central, hour-long lives. And you can look for the podcast to come out a few days later. Just depends on how much audio editing we need to do for the podcast. We're working hard on, obviously, you see, upgrading equipment to try to improve the audio and the overall production, and obviously ease the difficulty in editing for the podcast. You know, we can get away with a lot more here on the live because you guys can read our lips and follow along with our facial expressions and gestures, but when the audio comes over, if it's sketchy or just not high quality, it takes a lot of editing to get the podcast to where, you know, people would stay engaged in listening. So got a little different tonight. I'll bring in Jake here. It's just Jake and I, just the two brothers tonight. I believe Ben is actually going to join you guys on the Facebook Live, kind of as a moderator, and try to push the conversation. Just make sure you guys ask any questions you want. Don't make fun of us for the few folks from up north, but we are going through a very cold period right now, and it is brutal cold for us down here. It's negative air temperatures and wind chills insane. Jake and I are able to do this warm in our houses. Ben usually goes out to the cabin that he's building on their property, and yeah, he just didn't think, you know, with no heater in the cabin, he'd be able to sit out there for an hour, hour and a half, which I don't blame him.
Yeah.
So he'll be on the live. He'll be chatting with you guys on the live. And just again, if you guys have any questions or comments, make sure you chime in. As you can see, I'm joined by Jake. What's up, Jake?
Oh, not a whole lot. Just warming back up.
Yeah, because you work outside.
Yeah, all day. But you dress for the warm. You know, you got to dress for it. But it's still, it's frigid. I'm going to have to break out some of the hunting gear just to make it through.
Yeah.
It's freaking cold.
Forecast is like 7 to 10 days of this just crazy cold for us down here.
Yeah. It's supposed to be like high of 10 the next couple days. That's insane.
I think that's better than here. I saw like single digits during the daytime.
Yeah. Yeah.
A little bit of breeze and we're rough.
Yeah, it's like low at -5, but then you got to think of the Kansas wind out here a little bit. It's probably going to be, you know, I know you guys are a little bit colder right now, I believe, than we are, but it was still in the teens, less than teens today.
It's rough. We're not used to it. I know you folks up in Bemidji are probably used to it, but it's dang near Canada up there, man.
I'll stay down here.
Yeah. So, let's see. Just updates, what we've been up to. I haven't been doing a whole lot. I went and shot the Norfolk Archery Club indoor 3D last weekend at the Madison County Fairgrounds. You guys probably saw some clips and stuff from that. I forgot to share the rest of the pictures. I'll get to that sometime. But it's a good shoot. It was 20 lines, 2 targets a line, 1 arrow per target. It's kind of just like a free waterfall start. Just register and jump in whenever there was an opening. It wasn't overly packed, but there was a good number of people there. I shot with Mike, the leader of Archers in Nebraska, on Facebook. If you guys are in this area and looking for a good archery group to join, Archers in Nebraska is real good. Moderators on there keep it pretty clean, family friendly, and really try to promote outdoorsmanship and sportsmanship on there, and I enjoy it. So it's fun to shoot with him and chat. It's pretty adventurous. He didn't shoot real well in Columbus the week before, and he kind of said that he was kind of chasing his pins all over, and then he started shooting this week, and I would say like the first maybe 4 or 5 pulls, so like 10 targets weren't terrible, and then he just started chasing his bow all over the place. He's missing like 12, 18 inches left. It was just wild. And then he started making some pin corrections, and it was just, I mean, nothing matched any change he was making. And he said the week before he had gotten his rest worked on, and I reached up and touched his rest, and it was completely loose. The windage, it was just sliding left to right just freely.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then he got it, eyeballed, tuned, lined up, and then trying to shoot it back in. So missed a few targets, and
Yeah.
other than that, but I mean, this dude shoots. He's probably 6'5", easy, and works outdoors, real tough. And he's shooting a Matthews VXR 31.5 inch, 31-inch draw, and he's pulling 79 pounds. Gets like 325 feet per second out of that thing, and it is just whistles. Like when he misses a target, holy Moses. He blew through the plywood on one of the misses, skipped off the ground and blew through the plywood. It was ridiculous, but he got it sighted in, and the one video I did post was that slow-mo. It just happened to catch his best shot of the day on slow-mo, and he's shooting 48 yards across the range, longest shot of the day on a big red stag. And it's just crazy, a bow that shoots that hard, 325 feet per second. That arrow doesn't loft at all for 48 yards. It's just a laser.
Dart. I've seen that.
It is crazy. But it was fun. It was a really fun shoot. It was more, I felt like it was more low-key maybe than the Columbus shoot. But I enjoyed it. It's just fun to get out there and shoot 3D targets. It was a little darker in that barn, so it made it a little more challenging, which is good. I enjoy it. There's another shoot coming up, I believe March 13th. Anybody in the area, I'm going to try to be down at the Prairie Bowman shoot in Lincoln. You can look them up online or on Facebook and find information about their shoot, but it's Saturday only, and it looks like kind of like a waterfall start. Just show up and sign up and jump on a line and get going. Probably be a good one too. I believe they got 25 targets, 2 rounds, so 1 arrow per target, 2 full rounds, which I think would be fun. That would make it, you can make a little bit of corrections the second round through, and still challenging because you can't just do a follow-up shot with correction. But let me jump into the comments real quick, Jake, and then we'll get your updates.
Yeah, that's all
right. Butch up on Benji says it's like -20 right now for them. I told those guys, and I shared that in a post last week, that Megan and I ran cross country and track in college at Wayne State, and our indoor conference meet for all of my career and most of Megan's career was in Bemidji in late February, and it was just brutal. Like, their campus has all underground tunneling between buildings just so you don't have to go outside. It was brutal there. Nate, good to see you on, man. Where at in Nebraska? I'm in northeast Nebraska. Jake is up in northwest Kansas, and then Ben, our third guy who's not on, is in southwest Iowa. So we're all in kind of like a 200-300 mile range or so. Keep moving down. Let's see. Mandolin's on. She says Willow's watching and says, "Hi, Dad."
Hi, Willow.
It's too bad Joanna actually already went to bed. She's not feeling too great today, so she went to bed like 45 minutes ago.
Yeah, I kicked my feet up and I thought about it too.
And then Ben just put a comment on there about the making sure everybody checks out the Veteran First Responder Bow giveaway we got going on. That ends February 28th. A couple things with that. You can find information on our Facebook page, but you can message us and you can email Ben at maoiowausa@gmail.com, and you can send in nominations for veteran or first responder that you'd like to nominate for the bow giveaway. Additionally, if you have an old bow that's laying around, or any gear, archery gear, anything like that that you'd like to donate to the cause, email Ben and let him know as well. We'll hook that up. We did get a nice package from Butch Pence up in Bemidji. Really sweet Barnett bow that somebody's gonna get a good time out of it. I've watched reviews on it and make a great hunting, like whitetail hunting bow. Somebody even like a first time bow person, it's gonna be a great bow. It's got great adjustability for draw length and weight, and I mean, if you're not shooting long distance, if you're shooting under 30 yards, there's not much difference between a $200 and a $1,200 bow, in my opinion. It's all in the archer. You start getting out longer, and that's when the equipment can start to fail you a little bit. But it'll be a great bow, and we're very appreciative to get the donation. You can check the link on the Facebook feed here Ben just put in to see stuff about the giveaway. But all that said, let's kick to Jake. What have you been up to?
Well, this weekend I got to go out and check them cameras again that I've been talking about finally. It had been muddy the last 2 weekends, and then it was probably 15 degrees or so. And I decided I needed to go anyway, so I just bundled up and I went out there and walked straight lines in between my 3 cams. It was like 5.8 miles, as fast as I could because it was plenty cold. Still no signs of that deer I shot on camera, at least, but I did get a couple bucks that had shed, and I found a couple antlers. Just walking straight lines. I wasn't really searching through there because I like to take my family to that place, so I didn't really look around too much. But yeah, found 4 sheds, and that's about it. And kind of getting my bow kind of geared up. We're getting things ordered for that, and trying to get some things fixed that I think is wrong with it. And we should be able to get that done this weekend. So
yeah, when was the last time you changed strings?
2015. It's 2014. Yeah. So I shot it a lot in 2014. No, early 2016. I shot it a lot in 2014 because I bought it in November on the way back from nuclear outage. And yeah, shot it a lot that first year, and then I kind of just faded away. I shoot, as much as you should to get practice and sighted in, but not as much as I need to. Yeah. And so, yeah, definitely do.
We got some strings just ordered, and if you guys are looking for custom bow strings, we went with the local guy because he's supported some of our giveaways in the past, and he's been very supportive of Middle American Outdoors. It's Ron Harmon with Extreme Bow Strings in Norfolk, Nebraska. He's got multiple different kinds of strings. We go with the BCY 99. They're super tough. They're still fast, but they're almost the toughest string you can get for custom strings. For a hunting setup, they're awesome. I've got Jake and I's here going on our bows this weekend. And the great part is I put the order in Wednesday afternoon, and they were in my mailbox on Saturday.
That's crazy.
Fully custom strings, which is just insane. And they're great product. Like I said, Ron at Extreme Bow Strings, he supported our youth bow giveaway. He sent us a set of strings to put on my wife's Bear Apprentice 2 that we gave away to the children's giveaway. And so I got a pair of bowstrings for him to put on a bow for Ben, a keepsake bow. And just check him out if you guys are looking for something, and they're good price. Jake and I both shoot Matthews that had the yoke systems in there, so it's really a 5-piece set, and it's right about just under maybe like 100-ish, 110 maybe, with shipping. So you can't beat that. There's other manufacturers you're going to be paying $140, $150 for a 5-piece set, and you're definitely not going to get it in 3 days. No chance.
Yeah.
Ben dropped that link in the comments below on the Facebook feed if you guys are looking for awesome. Them. Tell them Middle American Outdoors sent you.
Yeah.
Let's see. Otherwise, we've already got through 15 minutes here. I haven't seen too many extra comments yet. If anybody's out there, you got comments or questions, let us know. We're going to jump into the topic. You saw the post earlier today. I shared a little video clip that Jake took this weekend. and we had kind of teased about this a couple weeks ago that we were going to get into shed hunting, as it's, you know, right around the corner. Really, some of us it's right here. So we're going to get into shed hunting, and yes, Ben is a great shed hunter too, and his boys, but Jake is our expert, our resident expert shed hunter. I honestly think, which do you like more, shed hunting or deer hunting?
Yeah, I honestly I think I like shed hunting a little bit more. I don't know why, honestly. That's kind of a weird thing, but man, it's crazy. Of course, I like shooting big, you know, getting the chance of shooting big whitetail too, but it's just, there's nothing like finding a, you know, match set, or having your kids find Magnum giant, having your kid find one, or your spouse or whatever. It's just, you know, it's something you guys can spend time together. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, so that's going to be the topic, guys. If you have any questions or comments as we go through it, let us know. We do have a list of topics that we're going to cover in the shed hunting, but basically it boils down to Jake's tips and tricks, and then closing with the discussion on some stuff you can do with the sheds. Ben had mentioned a couple weeks ago, watch for a video he's going to put together about basically restoring old sheds and some projects you can do with them to restore them and clean them up, you know, get the white in them and the accents of the stain, etc. Just make them beautiful pieces for displays or whatever. And there's plenty of other things you can do with it. I mean, Jake, you paid for your semester of college books with them?
Yeah, my first semester at college, I had a couple totefuls just from hunting when I was little, and I paid for my first semester of books and a little bit of money to spend on other things. But yeah,
that's awesome. Okay, first topic. These are driven by Jake. So first of all, Jake, what would you say is the ideal time? Obviously, we're talking Midwest, so it's going to change place to place. But for our area, what are you targeting?
Well, like I said, I usually try to start getting to walk the end of February. It's just when time frees up for me. I know people that go early as January. It just kind of depends when that big buck on your camera. That's why I run cameras this time of the year, just to really show when they start shedding. And I try to get in there because all of the areas I hunt are semi-pressured. So anything that's out in the obvious, kind of like what I just did, I walked trails. Anything that was out in the obvious, I could obviously see, so I'm going to pick up. But the end of February, beginning of March through March and spring is the beginning of golf season as well. But just right in there is perfect time, especially when the temperatures start warming up, to be able to get your family out or more people. It's and you know, I'd say 90% by mid-March around here is dropped. So that's when I go, first couple weeks of March for sure. And you know, if you're out there turkey hunting too, late April, that's when you can pick up the late shedders. But
yeah, I've talked before. I haven't been the avid shed hunter that Jake is. I suppose if I ever found one, maybe I would get a little bit more of an itch.
Come out. Yeah, come out here.
Yeah. But in the past, it's been all public ground around where I'm at, and I honestly think that after rifle season in November, I don't think those deer come back into the public ground with near enough consistency. But maybe I just don't find them either. But I have never seen a shed, you know, wind looking or even on accident when I'm at public ground doing other things. But I do try to get out because it's a reason to get out, and we get the kids out, and Megan even came along a few times last year. We'll kind of go more into getting your kids into it toward the end here. But that's one reason we've done it in the past. Plus, it's just active scouting, finding scrape and rub patterns from that past hunting season that are still around, and just first places to look the next year. And I've got some new lease ground this coming year that I haven't even set foot on now, and need to get out there and be shed hunting.
Yeah,
just basically walking around and trying to get a feel for deer pattern in that area. Next one that we have is, what would you say is an ideal weather day? What kind of weather days do you target to be out there shed hunting?
Yeah, overcast for sure. I think anybody would say that, just because of the sunshine kind of makes things hard, kind of puts shadows on everything. Just an overcast day really makes some white antlers pop, even the dark ones. Uh, I still have a hard trouble finding them dark or brown antlers, because you're not really, your eyes aren't really tuned in to find, looking for that. You're kind of more of the tines and the white. That's kind of how I focus on things. But so them dark antlers give me troubles, but in the overcast, it would really, really supposed to help. And if it's not going to be an overcast day, like I said, probably mornings or afternoon for sure, when it's not, sun's not right over you. That's when I always have my best luck. So,
Do you approach it differently? Let's say it is a sunny day. How would you approach looking for sheds on a sunny day?
I always put the sun at my back. You don't ever want to walk into the sun. You don't like driving into the sun, so I try finding a shed walking into the sun. It's not very easy. I mess around wearing different sunglasses too. I have prism lenses, which I think help a decent amount with Oakley prism lenses. They're the hunting ones. I don't know. They're just supposed to be for the hunting and reduce the glare and the fishing and different things like that. And that's, on sunny days, I try to at least get sunglasses on, especially for the safety of my eyes out there. So, but yeah, that's how I attempt to do that. Sunny days.
Yeah. So just because it's sunny, you don't just pass on it.
No, no, it happens more time. You don't get many of them. Well, you do, I guess, but it's normally sunny, I would say. And I still go. It's still, I'm not going to pass it up on a free day. So,
yeah. Butch asked, do you ever find both sides?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I just found a set on, what day did I go out there, Matt? Saturday, I think.
Saturday or Sunday,
yeah. I went out Saturday, and I found a match set laying in a trail that I had walked down, and it had been laying there for this whole year. A trail that I had walked down looking for the buck I shot, and I have no clue how I missed them. Granted, the weeds now are dead. Everything's dead. Where then everything was still alive and tall. It would be hard to find anything. That's why getting late into April when things are getting green makes things hard. You're kind of just hoping and praying then. But yeah, we find get into a good bedding area or into CRP, and it's not rare. I mean, it's definitely rewarding when you find both sides or match set laying close together.
So if you find a good shed one side, I assume you immediately start looking for the other side. How do you go about that?
Yeah, I kind of break it down grid wise. I don't use it or my maps. I'm going to this year hunt stand to just kind of track where I've walked and everything. I try to grid search just like you were to find a deer you've shot or lost blood. You kind of just spread out, especially with a couple guys. And I'm not super successful finding them super close together. I don't know. I mean, they roam quite a ways out here. They're not just locked down in one area, especially with the pressure. So, I found sheds miles apart from the same deer just based off a camera. A couple years ago, we had a buck that happened to shed like 6 miles apart down on a different creek bottom, and I got one of my buddies found one side and I found the other, and you look back on camera and it's the exact same deer, and it's just surprising that it's made it that far. One just holds on a lot tighter. That other one could have been jarred loose, or yeah.
So follow-up question, how somebody that's new into it, what are like some real simple ways or things to look for if you're actually trying to match the set?
I always try to stick to if it's a deer that I know, it's core bedding areas, but you're going to want to look, if it's in a bedding area, I would go kind of find a trail to the food source or the fence crossing, creek crossing. I do find quite a bit in bedding, and then I find quite a bit in food sources. So just the trails in the meantime, like you say, you find one in the bed in his bed. I'd pick that most dominant trail, or if you know this buck, find that trail and just go straight to the food source. Kind of mill around out there. It's like I said, it's a little bit tougher to find a match set. I don't know how many I have on me right now, match sets. I try to keep some of the bigger match sets just for my personal use, maybe rattling antlers, different things like that. But yeah, it's definitely, as far as finding a way to find the exact, the other side is kind of tough.
But what if you've got what if you've got a right and a left antler and you can tell the difference that they're right and left, but you don't know that they go together? What are like 2 or 3 things that you would try to match up if you don't have that deer on camera, let's say? What kind of, like, I would say, like, so estimating a deer's age is scientifically difficult, to like scientifically perfect, but there's a few things that you look for to try to estimate a deer's age. So if you get 2 antlers, they're right and left, they're kind of look the same. Like, what could you do to give yourself certain, like, more confidence that these actually are a matching set?
I always look at the base or the pedicle angle where it comes off the deer's head. There's, every deer is different, just like every person, but the antler's set on the head just a little bit different. Some are super wide. You can just really match the pedicles. Just that's how a lot of guys do it out in the elk country too, really. But you look at the pedicles, look at the mass, and that's how I kind of compare things. The brow tines are not really dead giveaway, but because you can have, I've seen plenty of bucks with one side has brow tine, the other side just doesn't grow. But I just take the 2, you can flip them over and kind of compare age by wax ring, pedicle size. Sometimes the pedicles are, or the bases are indented due to nutritional things, but and you can kind of compare them that way too. And that's a different thing. You can kind of look at I was reading when I was in college about different, being able to tell the nutrition of the deer by the pedicles and the bases. If it's indented, super heavy, means it was malnutritioned. And you can, like I said, you can use that as a comparison too, but that's kind of a different that's kind of a different topic. But
yeah, that's a good starter. Terry chimed in like symmetry. Obviously, if you're seeing, like, if he's a perfectly symmetrical buck and he's like that Magnum set that you picked up this weekend, it was like a mainframe 4x4 or 5x5.
Yeah, one was one side. Sorry, it was a stutter. One side was a 4x, one was a 5, but just 5-point side. One was 4, I believe.
Easy for you to say it was a match set because they were laying on the ground together.
Yeah, absolutely. They were touching bases. But I have pictures of that deer this year, and he was one of my target bucks. Just got a lot more massive and heavy. Just total stud of a deer now, especially if he made it through the rifle season this year. I'm definitely looking forward to it.
And like that deer's antlers, you picked him up and you said they're a year old. What would be like a layman's way to look and say, these are this year, these are fresh, these are a year old, these are really old?
Yeah. This set here, when I first seen them, I thought they were for sure, because they were laying. The first one, I thought it was just a single until I walked up there, but it was laying right out in the middle of the trail, and I was like, wow, I knew it instantly what deer it was just because it was the tall side. And when I picked it up, I looked at the bottom, and it had been laying there long enough that it kind of got that, it gets like a brownish tan, kind of muddy, wet looking. And of course, there was still brown on the bases and stuff like that. There was no wax ring on the pedicle where it comes in contact with the head there. So I had kind of knew that's kind of almost a dead giveaway when there's none of that. And the other one was buried in the leaves. So that one was that was kind of like, definitely last year's. There was no cracking usually when it's been laying there 2 years, 1.5, past the 1 year mark, unless it's a hard year for weather. But there was no cracking in it, and it's just what they call like a hard white antler. Just in great shape for sure.
Nice. So the next topic then is basically you talked about, if you find one in the bedding, and we'll
Yeah.
detail bedding more, you start to look for their food sources. So what are you targeting? Again, this is going to be regional specific. Remember, guys,
Yeah.
we're in Middle America, so we're talking about Middle America, and there in Northwest Kansas. What are you looking for bedding or for food sources at this time of the year?
Especially when it's cold right now, I definitely go into the corn. Just like normal, just like you would think, they're going to get some food, especially the grains. But cornfields are a little tough to walk, for sure, by yourself, almost impossible, in my opinion. It's always nice to have other people. Corn, I usually just walk the edge if I'm by myself. Unless I see a main trail through the corn, then I'll walk it. But just kind of walk the edge and kind of hope and pray there. But if you have a group of people, which a lot of people have started doing, getting a group of people, it's a lot easier to cover ground, so you don't have to walk creek bottom back and forth. You just make a swath, kind of like you would pheasant hunting. But spread out in the corn, a couple rows, 3, 4, 5 rows apart, and just walk it like you were for pheasants. We found numerous. It just takes a decent amount of good amount of people. It's just a really great place to find sheds, though, is corn. Second favorite place is definitely winter wheat. They stick out like a sore thumb, but I like to try to get to vantage points there up on pasture faces or something. I look down, spotting scope or a good pair of binoculars. It's always fun to find them just laying out there in the middle, with a pair of binoculars, like spotting up a big old buck.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I found them from the road that way too, in wheat fields, winter wheat for sure, where it's not as thick. That white antler really sticks out. So those are that's the 2 food sources. Of course, I had a video early, well, it was beginning of this season. I was walking a wheat stubble field on the way out from checking a camera, and I found that one laying there. That was in wheat stubble, but yeah, corn and wheat for me here, and I'm sure it goes for beans and whatever everybody else has out there. Food plots, I mean,
Yeah.
whatever you got.
Yeah. If you guys, when Jake was talking about glassing for him, I met a guy with Mile High Pursuit out of Colorado, and those guys are big time muley freaks, and they are shed hunting freaks. And you remember that, Jake, from last year, that video I sent you that they had up? They were glassing and found like a 100 plus 120 inch one side from like across the canyon, glassing with their spotting scope. And yeah, they got like the whole posse together to go over there, and they found the other one like 10 yards away. It's just enormous mule deer shed.
Yeah.
But that stuff's so cool too. Like, I'm with you. I would love to go, whenever we get a chance to go elk hunting, I hope we just at least find a shed on some of those first few trips, because just those sheds are just insane.
Yeah, I've always wanted to find an elk shed. I know a buddy of mine found one out here in Kansas this year, and that's kind of crazy. I would crap myself if I found one. Sorry for the language, but elk shed out here is just insane. What you stumble upon finding one of those. But yeah, definitely would like to get out and elk hunt in general, and hopefully find a shed.
Yeah. Just go elk hunting, period.
Yeah, just anything out of Kansas.
Yeah, I can't wait to go backpack hunting somewhere. One thing that popped in my mind when you were talking about a group of guys or a group of folks going out shed hunting together, I might have been daydreaming a little bit when you're talking about the time thing, but did you talk about pressuring deer too early, shed hunting?
No, I didn't talk about that. Yeah, that's why I was kind of leery about going out to this spot where I had my cameras, but just walking straight lines. I didn't see anything bump out. I don't know if they're back necessarily all back in there yet. This piece of property is heavily pressured, so I wasn't too worried about it. It's kind of a couple 200-300 yards off the road, so they're used to activity. But yeah, I wouldn't go stomping around in there until you have a visual that, it's better to wait a little too late than push a buck out into the neighbor's property and he finds that magnum.
Yeah.
But
another reason too is how hard is it on you being outside working right now? Like, this is a very, very tough time on deer, and this is where the stragglers don't make it. In that, just a little bit of added stress can just be catastrophe to a deer or multiple deer. I was actually watching a video. It kind of pertains to this. Just hear me out. It's the Elk Shape guys were doing their public land elk tour thing, and they watched a bull elk pushing a cow around like crazy, just marathon crazy. And then they thought that they kind of quieted down, so they tried to put a stalk on the bull, and they walked up on that cow with her calf over her looking at her, and that cow had died during the middle of the rut, just from the stress of trying to outrun that bull. It put so much stress on her body that she just fell over and died right there, cow and tote. And so just think about that. If you are getting out there, and pushing these deer when it's minus 20 here, and like, we're not used to it. These deer aren't necessarily used to it either. They don't have an option for, getting out of it. They have to adapt. And, like around here, it was 20, 30 degrees, and all of a sudden it's minus 20. That's incredibly stressful on their bodies. I know, like, Ben was putting out a bunch of feed last night because the deer are getting so taxed on his property, just making sure they have easy access, and they ate through 60 pounds of corn like nothing. The herd that he has living in his front yard. And just think of that too. Getting sheds are great, but we're outdoorsmen and conservationists above anything, and that little bit of stress that you put on them could be the difference between that doe hanging around and giving you 2 more deer the next year, or just falling over dead with 2 nearly born in her stomach. Kill 3 deer there with 1 falling down. That's the other part about waiting. Speaking of Ben, he did say that binos are very handy, obviously, and good glass. Good glass is so valuable. It sucks to pay it, but it's either, I'm kind of like a buy nice or buy twice, or buy nice, cry once kind of guy. But they're just, good glass is very valuable, and I think all 3 of us use Vortex optics. It's just very valuable stuff, and there's price points, and there's all different options for your price points, but they're all very quality glass. And then Ben also said, like I was talking about, his front yard herd, he's been sending us pictures. He's got 15 to 25 deer right now eating on the turnip patch that he planted last fall. It's basically in his side yard, and I believe that's where they've killed, I believe that's where Sergeant Thomas's son killed his doe, and that's also where Ben's son killed a doe in December. But he says there's been 15 to 25 deer out eating on those turnips recently, and there's a lot of bucks still with their racks on, and he's just kind of watching them through the warmth of his living room window, waiting to see the tops come off. And he's actually got pictures of the probably 180-inch whitetail that he had misfortune with the shotgun. And he's been out eating on the field right there on his side yard, so maybe at least get his sheds.
Man.
Unfortunately, Ben wasn't filming that day, but maybe we'll get that story from him on here one of these days. Just heartache. He did take a picture of the tree that he shaved. And then he also says, Jake, if it's legal, how do you feel about putting corn out to congregate deer to a location?
Is that from Ben?
Yeah.
It's legal here in Kansas. You can hunt over bait. I haven't ever ran feeders or anything like that. I used to just dump corn out on the ground. I would recommend it. I mean, you're trying to hold these deer in your area anyway, so you might as well put out feed. I run mineral all year as far as trophy rock. Looking to get into some other things here, but as far as corn, I don't run it necessarily so much because I hunt on a lot of ground that a lot of other people can hunt as well, public things like that. But so if I had my own piece, yeah, I'd put out a feeder, of course. That's for sure. It'd definitely be beneficial. I'm sure it'll pay off for Ben.
Yeah.
Whatever he's doing down there. So
He's talking about it like trying to bring them to so they'll drop their sheds there for you.
Yeah. Which yeah, honestly, I worked at nobody knows except for my family and you guys, but I worked I was a manager for an elevator for 5 years, and I had a lot of ground pile corn, a lot of stuff like that. Found sheds all the time. It was pretty awesome. There's hundreds of deer out there times, it seemed like, and I don't know how many antlers I found just working there. It was, shoot, I probably found enough there to pay for my books again.
Yeah.
But yeah, they definitely come to the corn, and they definitely will shed in the corn. Just kind of tinkering around with other bucks. You never know where they're gonna.
I think he's trying to get you to say whether you feel it's lesser of shed hunting than it is to actually just go out and roam and find them. But I'll give you the political correct.
Well,
go ahead.
Well, I'll make a side note here. Speaking of lesser people, shed. Well, I can kind of see that, I guess, if that's what he's going at. But even lesser than that, I know people that make shed antler traps. If you ever heard of it, look it up. It's kind of inhumane, in my opinion. Deer can get tangled up in them things. I see people making them out of bungee cords even. Big pile of corn, tie a stake, and you tie it back to different limbs, so when they stick their head down in there, it snags off. I've seen people use them online. I would never use it. I would never tell anybody to do that because you never know what they can get wrapped up in. So
nice dodge and transition into ethical discussion.
Yep, no problem.
I'll say in Nebraska we can't hunt over bait, so yeah, we can feed deer. You can feed them all year long. I should say not necessarily all year long. Up until like 10 days before season, it has to be empty, whatever. But if you are doing that to get sheds, more power to you, because like I just talked about, this is a really hard time of the year for deer. And if you're willing to dump money on the ground to give them nutrition in exchange for hoping that their sheds fall, then more power to you. I would piggy right back off of what Jake said right there, that just don't cross that line.
Mm-hmm.
Putting corn out and feeding deer is not putting the deer's life at danger. Putting out high wires and stuff like that to try to take their tops off just looks like not a great idea.
No.
Ben agrees that shed traps are bad. He's seen deer that harm their skull because of them. If that shed's not quite ready to come off, they'll rip it, not just the pedicle and the wax ring that pops off. Could do some serious damage. Worst case scenario, they get it wrapped around their neck or something, or just awful.
It's crazy what.
Go ahead.
I'll make a side note on that. Ripping off some of their skull. I have found sheds like that before with hunks of, skull matter in them, and the deer are still, I have them on camera the next year. It's just insane what they can endure. I have a shed up here somewhere on this wall back here. It's like 2 inches of skull matter that came off with it, and how, the brain exposed, I don't.
Yeah.
But he lived the next year, and I don't.
You almost feel like
crazy.
That was like rutting buck, ridiculous fighting, and
and I
busted
believe,
it
here in Kansas, if it's got over 2 inches of skull matter, you have to call a game warden that for just like you were to find
A salvage
a
tag.
skull.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like you were to find a skull, you have to report that. But it's crazy what they can endure.
Yeah. Butch up in Bemidji just said that they can't feed them, let alone hunt over it. And they couldn't even use scents this year, which would be difficult.
What?
I mean,
That's crazy.
Neither one of us really use a lot of scents for. I don't know. I mean, Jake and I use wind scent vaporizers more for like. Did you ever use like the eustress as far as like a lure?
I did with the deer I shot that day, which I think it had a good roll. Why it didn't run away. It was heading straight towards it, probably 2 yards away when I missed the first time. And it went downwind and it put its nose straight up and kind of came angled back into it. And I think it just calmed it down a little.
Yeah.
I think it helped.
You were using
honestly, thinking back.
eustress?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was early to be using that, but I didn't. It's the only one I brought at the time. And yeah, other than that, I'd like to put it more to test this next year and hopefully, see if it really pays off. But
so rolling on, quick run through on bedding areas. Where are you looking at for bedding areas here in Middle America?
Kansas or anywhere, CRP, tall grasses, I should say, your native grasses, whatever. Up in pastures, or in general, tall weeds around said food sources, which my property that I hunt has specific bedding. You can see surrounded by the corn, got water, pasture. It's got a little bit of everything, but bedding, pasture faces, south-facing slopes is key, just because they're out there sunning, try to get warm. But those are the key bedding areas I look for. Pastures is definitely the pasture faces I found more off of, like I said, the south-facing slopes, or even in the hard timbers. If you have a rolling one, more eastern, we don't really have, our timbers are pretty flat, but you get a south-facing slope and a timber, and that's always usually pretty good for finding sheds, and that's a good bedding area as well. But definitely tall weeds, hard to walk. That's why you have a dog if you can. If you can, that's a different story too. But
what about like access paths?
As far as
you have on here
finding
like
sheds,
4-wheelers and horses and.
Oh yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, if you have permission, of course. If you plan on hunting pastures or CRP or anything in general, and it's not too dry out to run 4-wheelers. Simple, way easy to recover ground. Kind of fun to ride 4-wheelers in general as it is. Take a pair of binoculars and kind of just ride up high in glass. And, I've used horses too in certain pastures with some friends, and it pays off too. You can really get up higher than ground level, and it's a lot easier to find them on a horse than 10 mile an hour on a 4-wheeler. But yeah, I would definitely encourage using those if you really want to cover ground and it's not too dry. Like I said, usually it's too dry out here, but for 4-wheelers.
Yeah. What about the frequently talked about fence crossings?
Yeah, fence crossings from bedding to food sources, or major crossings in general. I've definitely good luck with those. I generally just start the property, especially a pasture property, walk in the fence line. Usually can pick up a couple there. When they jump, it's common sense. They jar. They could be running, getting chased by something. They land, jar an antler off. Creek crossings, they do the same. I found them numerous times in the bottom of creek bottoms, just hop in the water, even down there drinking, or if it's dry, they're hopping, doing whatever they're doing whatever deer do, and jar them antlers loose. That's definitely a good place to look. Yeah.
And kind of rifling through some stuff here because we
Yeah.
don't want to get too long, but
Yeah.
what would you recommend for some good supplies if you're going out on a good shed hunt?
Yeah. As far as taking myself, um, just going by myself or not packing a kid or anything, we're definitely going to carry a pack, a comfortable pack. As we've talked about, Matt's a fanatic with packs, so we've probably got numerous. But a lighter pack, I can stick a couple sheds in if you end up finding more than you can carry. Um, I usually take some water, some Mountain Ops, Ignite, lately, or Enduro, um, and then a snack of some sort, high protein, cereal bar, Nature Valley. Definitely go with the Nature Valley. That's my favorite. But yeah, and a good pair of binoculars, of course, what I wear on my chest, in the Vortex pack. I use a Vortex Crossfire, I think 12 by 50s. They're not super high end Vortex. They're like kind of bottom, but they're definitely have paid off over the years. Definitely good, like you're talking, a good pair of glass. Definitely looking to upgrade, but that's what I carry. And sometimes, I encourage like people have walking sticks or anything just to move simple things out of the way. But it's a hike, just plan on. I don't think I've ever had a walking stick, but I've watched videos of people using them. I'm not 50 or 60 or whatever, and I can walk perfectly fine. Certain people like hiking with sticks, so
Yeah,
whatever floats your boat there. But
full
definitely
on. Just show up with full on trekking poles, man.
Yeah, hiking boots and whatever you got, big pack. Yeah, but yeah, I definitely encourage the water and the binoculars and sunglasses, sunscreen when it's hot, and you don't want to get fried out there. You get out 6 miles away from your pickup and it gets way too hot for you. It's kind of a long walk back, so
yeah. Well, I know there are definitely a lot of really good packs out there, even that are like specifically for
supply drop.
Specifically for shed hunting, even.
Yeah.
Basically, they just have more compression straps on them, especially like the elk shed hunters. You're not going to obviously stuff an elk shed in the backpack.
Framed. Yeah.
They're framed packs, and they have maybe like a little bit of a back to them to put your snacks in or whatever, but it's mostly just continuous compression straps and bungees and stuff like that to hold them on tight. But there's definitely great packs out there, and I don't have any for doing that. Just use whatever pack, really. But
yeah,
to piggyback off of that, we kind of touched on this the last 2 weeks here. What would you do differently, like getting Willow out there, getting your kids out there? Let's start with like thinking about gear stuff with getting your kids out there with age ranges.
Yeah, Willow is a year and a half now. We took her out last year with the front carrying pack, just the swaddle deal. I have pictures of that somewhere, but anyway, that's what she was that's what we had her in. Now I upgraded recently to a Clever carrier off of Amazon. Probably link in the description or whatever, but yeah, I upgraded to that. Carried around her in the house with it so far, and she really enjoys that. And it's super comfortable, super heavy duty. It's 5 pounds, so it's not going to kill you for weight. It's got snack packs, all sorts of stuff in there. You don't necessarily have to wear your backpack then. You really can't anyway with that. But it's got storage, a little bit of everything you need. And I wouldn't push the limits by taking them out for miles and miles and miles if they're not used to it quite yet. You kind of work them into it, and that's what I plan on doing. Just simple little walks, not going to get into the trees. Just kind of easy. But that pack's going to come in handy. It's going to take some stress off front side from carrying her on my front, and definitely going to be comfortable for her, it seems like, once you get everything adjusted. But
yeah, Jake and Mandolin and Willow had a really cool video last year. Willow's like 5 months old, 6 months old.
Then yeah,
At that and during that video, and the three of them were out there in Kansas and found like 75 sheds in 2 hours or something.
75. Yeah.
Oh, is it only like 72? They
More like 7 to 5.
yeah,
Nah, it was
7
I
to
don't know.
5 more than I've found in my entire life.
Gotta get out here.
Yeah. We use those clever carriers too. We did put a link in it on last week's videos, and we put an Amazon affiliate link on there. So if you want to really look into them, you can click on that link and help us out. But we have 2 of them. Really like them. Yeah, like Jake said, they're so adjustable for different sizes kids. Last year, we did not take Camden, who would have been 2 or 3 months old. He went to grandma and grandpa's, and we took Levi, who would have been just a little over 2, and Joanna would have been just about 3. No, Levi would have been just a little over 1, and Joanna would have been just about 3 years old. Joanna was walking a little bit more of it that time because she's almost 3, but obviously is not going to walk all that great amount, especially through thick stuff. So I was able to put her in one and Levi in the other, and Megan and I could cover good ground. You can adjust it to get, short kids boosted up so they can see over your shoulder, and tall kids boosted down so their head's not up above yours, and you don't have to worry about you duck and drive their head right into a limb or something stupid. Just keep them just above your shoulders. And like Jake said, they've got like a nice carrier underneath where the kids are sitting. Kids are facing forward toward you and are looking over your head basically, but nice little area down there where you that's where you'd put the stuff. Like we were working the short hair pointers, so we had the training sheds out there and the stuff like that, and then obviously carry some dummy sheds. That's what I was going to get into next. Jake, what would be some tips that you have, getting the kids into it to get them to love it? So getting away from the gear, but just trying to sell them on the passion.
Yeah, this was a tip that was brought to me by one of my good buddies. Is how he got his wife kind of into it a little more. But he would take previous sheds, it's just to get them excited. It's kind of like planting Easter eggs, kind of go out there and put them in semi-obvious places, just like you would for your dog, kind of so for training purposes for them. But as far as getting like a newbie into it, or a new person, you could go out there and plant sheds, just make it fun, kind of like an Easter egg hunt. Shed hunting is an adult Easter egg hunt, seems like, but I think that's a super cool way. I've seen a lot of people with their kids doing that. Really gets them into it, and their eyes kind of trained, and a little bit of all that. So
yeah, and I actually did that with Joanna last year on Jake's advice, and in some of the shed hunting videos from last year, the only sheds we found were the planted sheds. And basically, I would just get Joanna distracted and just throw it out in front of us a ways, and then kind of walk her by it. But it was the same. One of the hunts we were really focusing on trying to train the short hair pointers, and it was doing the same for them. Like get them distracted one way and throw it over, and then kind of lead them over there and see if they would pick it up or not. But that's very difficult.
Yeah.
But it was fun. Joanna really enjoyed finding the sheds those couple of times we did get out.
Yeah.
And let's see, jumping down. Let me do a real quick look. No questions here, just some bantering about we should be in Iowa helping Ben, and if we went and looked on his property, we'd need some sticks, which is probably not lying, man. Lives in some crazy terrain in the bluffs.
Yeah.
But let's see.
Nice to make it out there sometime.
Yeah, one of these days.
I haven't been out that way in Missouri in a while.
While we were talking, I wrote down a little bit more. I guess the last topic that we should cover is those management deals. So It's one of the gals that asked about what do you do with the sheds. Oh, it was Ben. It wasn't one of the gals.
Basically.
Oh, Ben
Oh.
says if someone wants to sell sheds, where would they go to do so?
Yeah, this is a topic that I knew we were going to get into eventually. It's kind of what I do with mine. Um, I have a guy right now. I use a guy out of Salina, Kansas. That's what my last couple guys that I've used. I haven't sold for quite a while just because I like keeping a hold of them. But yeah, there's shed buyers, antler buyers out there. Just look them up online anywhere. You got local guys all over the place looking to make crafts. Um, find your local forge guy and sell them to them for making knife handles. There's numerous things you can get on Etsy and sell them, eBay. But it's not really, for me, it's not definitely not about the money, about finding them. That's not what I'm doing it for. Doing it for the fun and the exercise and finding anything you can imagine. But yeah, that's who I use. There's shed buyers. There's quite a few out here, so it's kind of tough. They're getting into the details of like a good shed, a good A grade, no breaks, nothing like that. $8 or so a pound or more is what they were bringing last time I sold. So when you're talking a heavy, massive whitetail, it's nothing to see it go 2 pounds, easy. It was $16 for the shed itself. It's selling by poundage. But seeing that's how I could make my money for my books and stuff. You have a big tote full and it adds up so fast. It's insane. But yeah, that's what I do with mine. Furniture makers, there's numerous people, crafts people out there that would appreciate some.
Yeah. You been keeping them more. Is there any like projects you have in mind? Anything like that you've been keeping them more for?
I always come up with random project ideas. There's always, I have a coffee table that I've wanted to make for a man cave for quite a while. It's got people seen it probably online. It's got the open glass top with shed display inside with grass or snow or whatever you have in there. And also in this house, I have a rail along my stairs that I put my right-handed package shipped, right-handed just big sheds on just because of the angle of it. But yeah, I keep them just for projects like that. I don't know. I've thought about making an antler tree sometime down the line if I ever get that many, or a chandelier. I've kind of wanted one of those if I ever have a house that deserves to have one of those.
Yeah.
But
I showed you those
yeah.
pictures from Dana Bolkelman at Balancing Arrows Outfitters. That's in very northwest Nebraska, and if I ever draw a bull elk tag in Nebraska, you can bet your bottom dollar that's where I'm going after meeting that guy. But he showed me some pictures, and you guys can go check out their website. I'm not positive they have a Facebook page.
I don't know.
He might, but it's Balancing Arrows Outfitters in northwest Nebraska, and in their lodge, and I think maybe even in his house, they above the cabinets they've just got antlers just cram packed up in there. Where people put liquor bottles or whatever. It's just super sweet looking. And he was actually telling us a story at the expo with all the elk sheds that they have at their lodge. He'd piled them all in one corner of the building, and apparently there's so much there now that he feels like the building is actually, the foundation is settling differently. They've got so many freaking elk sheds on their ranches up there, and all them elk sheds piled in one pile in the corner of the lodge. So he's talking about having to move the sheds around just so that the building doesn't tip over. That's rough.
Yeah.
But yeah, did you have any other topics that popped in mind? I think I covered most of the stuff we had written down, and I'm trying to cover the stuff that people have been asking on the questions.
Just another thing that I do with mine, as far as a good thing for your pets. My dogs I don't give them rawhide or anything like that. They strictly chew antlers. They love it. That's all I've given my one dog since we've had him as a puppy, and I just got another one, and that's all he's had too. And they're just super good. You know, the marrow on the inside, and just a lot healthier than the rawhide. I know a lot of people that cut them up and package them and sell them as dog chews. You know, you see them in Orchlands for $20 for a little piece, but that's a side business that I've kind of always wanted to get into. Where I have a stockpile now, it could be easier. Just if I could find a way to package and market, which I'm not great at. It'd be something I'd be interested in doing. But yeah, that's good source for your dogs as well.
Have you ever experienced the myth of dogs chewing on bone like that and breaking off shards and choking on it at all?
No, if one does shatter, I usually pick it up. They do splinter sometimes. I would not give an older antler to my dog because they do splinter a lot worse than fresh. Um, Most of mine are short little stubs that I find, you know, good mass, just a good solid bone. And he just, gnaws it down. Nothing's too sharp. You don't want to have the sharp edges. I cut the tines off if it has tines. But yeah, I've heard those different stories like that. But there's also rawhide that you could go into, and I think that's a lot worse than
way worse.
Yeah.
Many times worse.
For sure.
I mean, you covered the key principle there. We don't give our dog cooked bones. You know, we don't, if we cook a piece of meat like a T-bone, we don't give them that cooked bone because of that reason. And that's basically the same idea as what Jake's talking about with an old shed versus a new shed. So that old rotted bone is going to fracture and splinter, and they can choke on it potentially. That new bone is not.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just still new, pretty healthy bone. And that was the key difference. And just don't give them the old sheds. Don't give them the cooked bones off a game or whatever. And yeah. Let's see. No other specific questions on here. I think that'll wrap up our shed hunting discussion here. You guys can check out on Facebook. We did put up that short little clip that Jake had showing off his success from the weekend. Did you want to touch on finding that arrow quick?
Oh yeah, I can touch on that. If you go back and check out the video on our Facebook page, I was walking bedding from my last trail camera back to my pickup. It was like a mile stretch, but this bedding area happened to be 200 yards the other direction from where the deer ran after I had shot. I found this arrow in a bed, and turns out it was the arrow I shot this buck with from this year. Definitely dead giveaway with the MAO tag on it. Maxima arrow. Everything was wore off. Paint was all rubbed off. It had been in them for quite some time. The interesting part to me was that just the broadhead unscrewed and the arrow came out intact. Granted, it was broken in 3 places, snapped. It was just held together. I have no clue how it just pulled straight back out like that. But I still believe that broadhead is in the backside opposite high shoulder. Probably going to be in there until somebody harvests him. I don't think he's going to die from that, given no infections and stuff. But it was kind of just crazy that the arrow was back the opposite direction. I don't know how long he had it in him. You know, like I said, I seen him a month later, just fine, just had some, you could see where I had hit him. But it was pretty crazy. I looked down and found a stub antler about that big, just the big old base. All the points are broken off of it from this year, fresh shed. And then one step farther, I found that. But I know it's not the deer. That's not the shed. You know, that's not the one I shot. But that's it was kind of a sigh. I don't know what to think about it after seeing the arrow. You know, it felt good because I think if it would have been any worse, it would have broke off. You know, it would have been stayed in it, or I don't know, coming out whole like that, but broken. Just kind of crazy, honestly.
Yeah, really.
Like,
Because
because
when you saw him, you saw
penetration.
both sides, and both sides
Yeah.
were entry and exit
And
wounds.
yeah, yeah, I had blood on bottom, about mid shoulder on opposite side. And air, just the exact air angle that I seen my arrow go in the deer at when it took off was that, exit wound. And when I seen him running, there's only about, I don't know, 13, 14 inches of the arrow sticking out of him. But I don't know if it just slipped on, slipped right on out. And I just don't get that. I know with the one, it probably snapped it, but that's carbon fibers held together and held the arrow intact. And it's just crazy. I figured that arrow would be in 3-4 pieces or so, but it was all just laying there with the broadhead unscrewed, and I was like, "What the?" Oh,
like it penetrated, but didn't. Like it broke
and
through
then
the other side.
Maybe that broadhead lodged, and it just turned it out, and then it flopped out. I have no, I don't know.
But you had an exit wound, right?
Yeah, so it had to have came out just poked through a little ways,
and then maybe running through the grass unspun it.
Yeah,
and then the whole arrow backed out. I don't.
Yeah, I don't know if broadhead's in shoulder blade still or not. I don't know. So I've been trying to get trail camera pictures, and it's been the hardest buck I've ever had to try to get a trail camera picture of. I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but he's just no sign, nothing. I just want to show everybody, that he is alive, and I'm not pulling everybody's chain, and he is a big, a nice, non-typical, but
it'll be even nicer next year.
Trying to find his sheds is gonna be a challenge.
Yeah.
Hunting a certain deer sheds is pretty tough.
Yeah. Sweet, guys. Well, if anybody has any additional questions on shed hunting, you can always hit us up, and I'll refer you to Jake or Ben if you ask me, so you might just save yourself a step and ask them. I am the guy that sits in the bow shop and tinkers with the bows and does the mechanics and the numbers. That's my go-to on this crew here. I guess for this year I'm the one that kills the bucks too.
So funny.
But
not the 3D targets.
Yeah. No, that was Ben blowing the heads off of the 3D targets.
Troy.
Yeah. different tactics they took. So anyway, we'll wrap it up for tonight. We appreciate everybody that's been on the live, and we will be back in 1 week. You can obviously catch this again on podcast later this week, but we'll be back in 1 week next Monday, same time, same place, 8 o'clock Central Time, live on our Facebook page and our YouTube channel. Topic, I think we're probably going to try to get Matthew Reeves back on from Southern Pursuit again, if nothing more than just to hear about his epic deer season in the South. I mean,
yeah, it's crazy.
That dude's killed a buck every other week, it seems like. I feel like spitballing. I feel like he's killed 8 deer this year, and 4 or 5 bucks maybe. Like,
it's been insane.
Just an epic season to where I think maybe in Alabama, I don't know exactly what happens, but he got a bonus buck tag, and he just took a wild shot on him. Wild management area he's never even stepped foot on. First day there, just killed a buck.
Yeah, it was a good management buck too.
Yeah, it was a collie, but it is unique as crap, and it's just crazy. He's had a great year, so hopefully we can get him on. I'm gonna talk to him here in a couple days and see, and then we'll hear about his season, and maybe that'll be it for that episode. We need to get him back on and talk about self-filming again, but with that epic season, maybe we should just get him on and talk about his incredible 2020-2021 deer season there in the South. That'd probably be pretty interesting. That, and like his dad's killed some good deer. It's like, they've just been all over it. But so tune in next week. We'll see if we can talk Matthew into getting on here, and we'll see you guys. Thanks.